Throughout NBA history, in regards to the 40s, the 50s, all the way to the 2000s era, there has been always that one NBA player or few other NBA players that stood out within each of these eras to be considered the so-called face of the league during their time periods. You consider guys like Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Kobe Bryant, you get the point. The list goes on and on and on, but more or less, there has been so many variants of players solidified within this specific caliber of greatness, but there has been only two NBA players throughout history that's been mainly recognized as the GOAT or the greatest of them all, and that is none other than Michael Jordan and LeBron James. When considering these two players regarding obviously Michael Jordan and LeBron James, NBA fans typically categorize these players within their own tiers, which would be known as the GOAT tiers, because there has never been any other player mainly discussed within the GOAT conversation in such a high degree in demand in comparison towards these two NBA players. And to be fair, the greatness of Michael Jordan and LeBron James makes this statement highly justified. It is obvious that these players were able to dominate within their specific time frames. As you know, Jordan dominated within the 90s era and LeBron mainly dominated within the 2010s era, and consider how his career is still currently in progress thus far, and this would bring upon many discussions regarding which one of these players would prevail within greatness, comparing every single thing that was accomplished within their overall careers. However, the many debates, logical considerations, and even fan bias are some of which factors that makes the GOAT conversation not make any sense whatsoever. Now, obviously, we have two of probably the greatest icons within NBA history regarding LeBron James and Michael Jordan, and these are players who played within a different variety of audience. But in other words, the individuals who grew up to watch NBA basketball featuring the Miami Heat, LeBron James, or even LeBron during his time with the Cleveland Cavaliers before his decision to take his talents to South Beach, more than likely, this is a fan group that hasn't had a chance to witness Michael Jordan's greatness in full-on display, often leading these fans to only consume the greatness of one player, which is of course LeBron James, and automatically assume that he is the undisputed GOAT and has accomplished more than what Michael Jordan can only dream of. But then on the other hand, you have the fans who were alive to witness Michael Jordan's greatness and LeBron's greatness all in one. So these are the fans who were able to witness both ends of greatness projected from both players. However, these are typically the fans who grew up to become a Michael Jordan fan, and they can't help but to defend Michael Jordan's case for him being known as the undisputed GOAT within NBA history, and some of these fans even turn out to become pure LeBron haters. Considering these standpoints, there are many fan biases that are involved when it comes to the GOAT conversation, which can often lead towards fans not considering the many accomplishments and just how great each one of these players really are, and they just get stuck within specific narratives that benefits their favorite player without having any diversity of considering other narratives for a fair argument. And there is nothing wrong with that, since it is normal to have certain biases towards the player that you're a fan of course, but this is amongst the aspects that makes the GOAT conversation make no sense whatsoever. Now consider how, like I've mentioned earlier, that these players played within their primes amongst different eras of NBA basketball. Michael Jordan was mainly recognized as him performing in his prime within the 90s era, and LeBron James was playing in his prime during the 2010s era. Now, you may ask, why does it matter so much that these players played within different eras? The answer may be obvious, but the main difference is based on the way basketball was played during these eras. players. It has been a common theme for some time now that back in the day, basketball has been much more physical and the defense was such a huge and polarizing aspect of basketball. But within the 2010s era and even leading up to today's era of basketball, physicality has pretty much been nullified from this league in an attempt to promote higher scoring games, benefiting the offense and punishing the defenders. Basically, it is difficult to compare these two players because of the style of basketball they had to become accustomed to, along with the circumstances within the league being completely different. Swapping these two players from each era can possibly contribute to many interesting outcomes. Now, if you insert LeBron in the 90s era, due to how physical the defense is compared to the 2010s era, maybe this is something that can affect LeBron's play style of being able to drive to the rim consistently, as he has done many times within his overall career. And then you have the chance of LeBron playing identically the same or even better within this era of basketball compared to the 2010s era. And putting Michael Jordan in LeBron's era would make you assume that he would be able to dominate in today's league, since it is so much easier to draw fouls, and with him being such a scoring threat, he would be benefited even greater, since this is a league that benefits the offensive end of the ball game spontaneously. But his defensive ability may be nullified slightly due to him not being able to be as physical of a defender as he was, as well as the many aspects of foul baiting that could possibly affect him. There are many more outcomes that can be considered when thinking about how these players will perform within each era of basketball, but we will never know for sure because there will never be an instance of these players being able to experience each era for themselves. Maybe we should consider to only solidify GOATs within each set era of basketball instead of trying to solidify a GOAT throughout every single era of basketball within NBA history. There are many more aspects that makes the GOAT conversation basically worthless in my eyes, but each standpoint that I have mentioned within this video, I feel like are the major aspects that contributes as to why the GOAT conversation makes no sense whatsoever. It is truly impossible to decipher whether if LeBron James or Michael Jordan is better than one another, because let me briefly include that their play styles slightly contrast from one another, and the conditions and circumstances during their time of playing basketball is simply different, whether if it's the fans, whether if it's the era, heck, whether if it's how LeBron played more seasons than Michael Jordan, who knows. The way that I see it is that we should accept greatness the way it is and just appreciate what these all-time greats had to present towards us NBA fans throughout NBA history. But other than that, that will conclude today's video. What do you guys think? Do you guys agree that the GOAT conversation makes no sense, or do you guys think that the GOAT conversation is simply inevitable? Let me know your opinion in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm out. Peace.